faster than wages. Families on Main Street are being squeezed. Their living standards are going backwards. They're getting squeezed because our economy is stagnating and the national government is doing nothing to grow the economy and to grow incomes. And I want to give you a very typical example, and I'll call them Matt and Lisa. Matt's a foreman. He earns about $45,000 a year. His wife Lisa's a receptionist. Her income is $25,000 a year. That gives them a household income on about the national average. You know, they were looking forward to the promised tax cuts, but they didn't expect that they'd be paying for them through GST going up and higher government charges. When John Key said before the election, quote, National will not be increasing GST, end quote, you know they believed him. He broke that promise, and the price rises that were released last week for the last quarter were the highest price rises in 21 years. Now there was the so-called tax switch. Yep, Matt got $26 a week, and Lisa, she picked up $12.75. But I've got to say, all of that was swallowed up by higher government charges, the GST increase, and by rising prices. They rent an average sort of a home in Auckland. They pay $430 a week, and their rent went up also on average last year by $16 a week. They'd love to own their own home. But with costs going up, it's hard for them even to think about saving a deposit. When they put petrol in the car, it now costs them 40 cents a litre more than this time last year. Another $12 to fill up the tank. And what's more, they'll be paying $32 more than they paid last year to register their car. Now here's something that gets very personal. Matt rides a motorbike. It's a cheap way he thought to get to work. And the registration on that went up by a huge $174 this year because of government-imposed increases in ACC. And when they go to the supermarket, and you'll know this, it costs a lot more. 2 litres of milk, up 70 cents a litre. And Matt and Lisa want to know why it costs so much to buy something that we produce in this country when the New Zealand consumer is paying more than someone in London or someone in Sydney. And that's a question the government should answer.
Through decades of
and then there's the block of cheese. Remember that from the last election? John Key and the block of cheese. Well, in the last year, that block of cheese has gone up in price 20% from $12 to around $14. But next week, there's a really bad shock in store for Matt and Lisa. They struggle each week. They've got a 4-year-old daughter. She goes to childcare. And on the 1st of February next week, her childcare fees will go up by $25 a week because the National Party has withdrawn their co-payments towards that to a large degree. $25 a week. You know what that means for a lot of our families that are struggling to make ends meet? It means they can't afford to get their kids to quality early childhood education. And that's where the foundation is laid, and that's a disgrace as well. Matt and Lisa have been forgotten about by this national government. I can assure them they won't be by my government. They weren't a priority for tax cuts, and anything that they did get has already been eaten up by price rises. But not everybody's finding it tough. You know, some did okay out of those tax cuts. Up on Easy Street, half of the tax cuts went to the top 12% of income earners. And cabinet ministers weren't modest with themselves or with me. They and I got $213 extra a week. a week, and some of them several $1,000s. So don't tell me it wasn't a case of not having the money. It was a case of who the money went to, and the less you needed, the more you got under this government, and that's a disgrace.
New Zealand's economic imbalances have built up over nearly 2 decades. It will take more than a year or two.
It's no wonder that Matt and Lisa
it will take a number of years
squeeze.
and considerable
Labor's
effort.
been thinking a lot about
in our first budget
what we
in
can do to make
2009,
sure
the government's
Matt and
focus
Lisa
was on getting through the
are a
recession
priority
as
again.
good a shape as possible.
Do that by making
last year's
sure
budget, we
that middle
concentrated
and
on
low-income
reforming the
New
tax
Zealanders
system.
are put at
This
the
year, the
centre
theme of the budget
what we
will be
do.
savings and investment.
This starts today
The government
by
agrees
releasing
with the
Labor's
Savings
action
Group
plan
in its interim
for jobs
report
and growth.
that New Zealand as a
Give you an
whole
idea of
needs
what
to
that's
save
about.
more,
Tax
spend
changes
less, and reduce our
that will
reliance
better support
on foreign
exports
borrowings.
and not
Over the
speculation.
last year or so, New Zealand
Increasing
households,
innovation
businesses and farms
to
have
grow
begun to
productivity
save more, spend
and
less,
smart
and borrow
and
less
successful
as a proportion
businesses.
of their income.
Boosting
This is
skills
an encouraging
and
change of
training
behaviour,
for
but needs
trade.
to be cemented in for the long term. And government needs to stop pushing the other way. The Savings
Owning
Working
our
Group
own
is due to
future
present its
by
report to
increasing
government
savings,
in a few weeks.
stopping
We
the
will
asset
consider this
sales
very
that this
carefully,
government is
including
planning,
ideas around
and
tax,
keeping Kiwi land
saver,
in
and
Kiwi hands.
products. The government has already made tax changes that are pro-saving.
And as I've announced already,
We remain
changing our
conscious,
monetary
however, that
policy
the effective
to support
tax rates
exports
on
and
some form
jobs.
of savings
In the
remain
tax
very
area,
high.
I've already
The government
announced
is also
that we
interested in
will
ideas
axe the
that increase
GST
participation
on
in
fresh fruit and
Kiwi Saver
vegetables.
and raise national savings, but which don't result in ongoing
Not just
unaffordable
the
fiscal
2.5%
costs, which again would have
increase,
to be borrowed.
but the whole
And in terms of
15% tax,
investment opportunities,
and that will
the
help
government
make
is
a
interested
difference
in the working
in the
group's
weekly
thoughts
shopping
on how to
bill.
expand the range
But
of
more than
investment
that,
opportunities available to New
studies
Zealand
show
savers.
that the
It would be
best
better
way
for both
to get
investors
people
and the economy
to eat
as a whole
more healthy
if people
food
had confidence
is to drop the
save
price
more
of it.
and invest in a wider range of
And we live,
assets and not
and
just
we live in a
property.
country that has
These are all
been
areas
found
where
by the
government may be
OECD
able
to be
influence
the
level
third
or
most
allocation
obese
of
country
private
in the
sector
world.
savings.
And what
But a
shocked
point which has
me
been made very
is that
clearly by
one
the
child
Savings
in
Working Group,
4
and I might add
at
others,
age 5
is that the government
is already
itself
overweight.
a crucial part
And I
of the
say as
national
long as it
savings
costs more to
equation.
buy healthy foods
The
than
the
it does
government
to buy
simply
junk
has to
food,
get its
we won't
finances in
address
order
that
if
particular
New Zealand is
problem,
to
but
achieve
Labor
a
will.
long-term improvement
It will do that
in
by
economic
reducing the
prosperity.
GST.
Therefore, I'm announcing today that the government intends to borrow less in the future
Secondly,
than is currently
I want to announce
forecast.
today policy
That
work
is going to
underway
involve action
to
on
overhaul
two
the
fronts.
tax system
On the
to
operating
make it
side
fairer
and on the capital side
and more
of the
effective
government
for our
spending.
economy. I'm
So
setting
firstly,
two
in
goals.
terms of the
The
operating
first one
spending,
is
the
about
government has
fairness,
decided to run
a
a
tax
tighter
system
fiscal
that
policy
is
than has
fair for
previously been
everyone.
indicated.
The second
When we are borrowing
is a tax
$300
system
million
that will
a
actually
week,
encourage
when we have
and
an
jobs.
overvalued exchange rate
And how will we pay
and
for
face
that?
the prospect
First
of
of
a
all,
credit
it'll be by dealing with
downgrade,
the loopholes
the government
that allow
believes it
too many
should be
people to
spending
bludge
less
by
and
dodging their
therefore
taxation.
borrowing less. I therefore challenge my ministers to balance the books more quickly.
And
Government
secondly,
spending will
it'll be
continue to
about
increase
making
each year in
sure
dollar terms,
that everybody
but at a
pays
slower
their fair
pace
share.
than the rest of
And I'm
the
sorry,
economy.
some of those that got the
As the first
fantastic
step in
increases
reducing
in income
spending
through the
growth,
tax
we will
cuts
run a
last
tighter
October
budget this
are going to
year
have to
than
give
was
some of that
indicated
back.
in the budget policy statement back in December. Currently, we have a new spending
What I will
allowance
guarantee
of
in this
$1.1 billion
is that our
each
tax
year.
structure
You need to
will be
compare
fair
that to
on
Labor's
everybody,
average
whether
of
you live on Struggle
$2.8
Street,
billion
Main Street
over the
or
last
Easy
5
Street.
budgets. Our plan
How are we
is
going
to
to change
reduce that new
it? In
spending
New Zealand,
allowance in budget 2011
we pay
even
income
further
tax
to
on the
around
very
$800
first
to
dollar
$900 million.
that we earn.
About
And under
a
Labor, we're going to
third
change
to a
that.
quarter of what the previous
What I want to announce
government was
today
running. Nonetheless,
is that Labor
this
will
year's budget
introduce
continue
a
to
tax-free
prioritise
zone
new spending
in
on
our
health and
first budget
education in particular,
and look to
and
increase it
initiatives
during
that promote
our first
economic
term.
growth. At the moment, the Treasury is predicting that the budget will return to a meaningful surplus in 2015.
You know, the Aussies
16.
don't always get it wrong.
With a tighter
In
budget
Australia,
this year and assuming revenue
on the first
stays on track,
$6,000,
the budget
you
will
pay
in fact
no
return
tax.
to a meaningful surplus
And if you
year
earn
earlier in
a really high
2014,
income,
15.
you pay a whole lot more
In
tax.
addition, until we get back
And they've got it
into
right,
surplus, we
and
are
I
going
believe that we
allocate
need to
any
follow
upward
that
revenue
example.
surprises to further reducing the deficit. Throughout this year, we're also going to consider long-term sources of saving, and there are a number.
That everyone
in particular, the government is determined to reduce the cost of running its own businesses.
You would not pay tax
that process
on the
has
first
started,
$100 a week
is still a long way from being lean.
And you know, for a working couple like Matt and Lisa, that would give them
this year,
an extra take-home pay of $1,000 a year. Why am I advocating this?
On being
firstly,
managers
I think it's fair. Everybody gets the same, whether you're single or married, whether you're on a low, middle or high income.
Any party that wants to ramp up spending is
it's also fair.
Irresponsible.
It'll reduce the squeeze
on
middle-income families, and it'll really help out those who are on low incomes.
Borrowing more would
what a tax-free zone does is help families struggling to make ends meet have the ability to decide how they're going to spend that extra income.
In terms of
it's not about any state. Every one of those families know where their priorities are when they sit around the kitchen table and wonder how they're going to pay for the bills. Matt and Lisa, for example, might spend it on necessities for their children, on clothing or food. But it'll leave something after that for other priorities. As I said before, Matt and Lisa would dearly love to own their own home. If they could save another $1,000 a year, that would bring them closer to the Kiwi dream of having their own home.
Prisons and schools,
and God knows they need it. You saw in the paper earlier this week a survey that was done of housing costs around the world. You know, it placed New Zealand as one of the most expensive countries in the world to buy your own home. One of the most expensive. And it came as a shock to most of us to know that it's actually more affordable to buy a home in New York than it is to get one in Auckland. And that's not right, and we have to change it. A tax-free zone is a good idea, but we know that we've got to work out how you would pay for that, because you don't get something for nothing. I won't make any promise that I can't keep and that the country cannot afford. So I want to explain some of the options that we're exploring to meet the cost of doing what I think every New Zealander would believe is a good idea. But first I'll tell you how we're not going to pay for it. We're not going to borrow to pay for these tax cuts.
In particular, the sort of mixed ownership model under which Air New Zealand operates, where the government owns most of the
National's doing that already to pay for the tax cuts that went disproportionately to the top income earners. They are borrowing a net $120 million a week. $120 million a week more into debt. Now maybe they feel they can afford to do that, because one of the legacies that Labor and Michael Cullen left this government was a net zero government debt. In the good times, we paid down that debt to leave New Zealand in the black, not in the red.
The first is that it broadens the pool of investments for New Zealand savers,
National
either directly themselves or through investment
and the
funds
cost of giving those tax cuts to high-income earners will be paid for by future generations.
The options of putting their savings into large proven companies,
Labor will not be increasing GST to pay for this new tax system.
The second reason is that the company
now, you can believe those words from us in the way that you shouldn't have believed those words from them. But if you have any doubts, have a look at what the right-wing bloggers and the right-wing economists are saying to National. Put it up to 17.5%. I think Don Brash wants it at 20%, and I'm telling you, you can't trust a national government.
Provide as good a service to its customers.
The third thing we won't do,
to
pay for this is to sell off assets. But I can tell you that National would.
Further, without depending
Remember when they said they will not sell assets in this term?
The government has asked Treasury for advice on the merits and viability.
I tell you what, they'll be selling the family silver to pay for those tax cuts. They'll be selling the public assets, including our power companies. And Labor will not be doing that.
The government would retain majority ownership and control, and the freed up capital will be used to purchase other public assets
that we
thereby
don't
reducing
need
the government's
more
need
Kiwi
to borrow.
assets to be hocked off
The government has
overseas.
also asked Treasury
Labor's
for
going to
advice
be
on the
more
merits
fiscally
and
responsible
viability
than national.
of reducing
So
the
before
government's
we
shareholding
introduce
in
a
Air New
tax-free
Zealand
zone,
while retaining
we'll show
a
you
majority
how
stake.
we're going to pay for it.
Only the
And I mentioned
companies
it before.
I have just
The
mentioned
first area
will
we're
be
going to look at
considered for a
is the
mixed
question of
ownership
tax
model.
evasion and
But the
avoidance.
government will continue
Nobody
to
knows
look for
exactly
commercial
how
arrangements
much
in
that
other
is,
areas where
but the
private
figure is
involvement
generally
can
put
help
into
drive
the billions
performance
of
in the
dollars.
way we have been doing
The tax
with
working group
public-private
that National set up
partnerships, for example.
pointed out that only
I
about
can see
half
strong appetite
of the
from New
wealthiest
Zealand
individuals
investors
in New
for
Zealand
participation in
actually
a
pay
mixed
the top
ownership
tax
model.
rate. Chances
Between
are
Kiwi
you're
Saver
paying
and other
a higher
managed
tax
funds,
rate than many of the people
mum and
out
dad
there
investors
earning
and the
millions.
government's own investment
The
arm,
tax working group
including the
also
super
said
fund, there
that
is
when
a
you've
very
got wealth,
substantial capacity
you can
to
restructure your
invest in
affairs
quality
through
New Zealand
trusts
assets.
and through companies
We
to
would
shelter
envisage
income
these
from
groups
taxes
being at the
and
front
even
of the queue
actually
in any
to get
offering
social
and
support
taking the
that you're not
majority of any
entitled
stake
to.
that
That's
was
wrong.
offered. In particular, I think it would be
The tax
great
working group
if Kiwi mums
pointed out
and dads had more of
that
a
we
stake
have
in the New Zealand companies
$200
by owning
billion
shares in good Kiwi
worth
companies.
of rental
That,
property
in my
in
view,
New
would
Zealand.
be progress towards
And you
building
know
a
how
better
much tax
savings
return
and
that
investment
gives?
culture in New Zealand.
Zero. Zero.
Ownership by New
Actually,
Zealand
it
investors
generates
would, of
tax
course, be
losses
on top of the
that
government's
people claim
majority stake,
against.
which is held on behalf
And what I'm saying
of
is
all
that an
Kiwis.
incoming Labor
That
government,
majority
as
stake
its first
would also
priority,
ensure New
will be to
Zealand's
set up
control
a
for the
high-powered
benefit of New
anti-avoidance
Zealanders.
tax task force
As far as possible,
entrusted
and
with the
without
role of
compromising
closing
commercial
those loopholes.
sensitivities,
Now, I'm
the
going to give
government
you
will
one
publicly
example
release the advice
of
we
the sort of
received from
loophole
Treasury.
that will be closing.
We've always been clear
Let's
that
say
if
Mark,
there was to be
who lives
any
in
change
Auckland and
to
earns
our
a good
policy on
salary,
state-owned
also
assets in any
speculates
way,
in property
we will seek
investment.
the support of New
He
Zealanders
actually
in
arranges
elections,
to
and
run
that is
his
exactly
rental
what we will
properties
do.
at a loss,
Our final policy will be
$40,000
decided
a
prior
year.
to this year's
He
election,
can
and
offset
we will seek a
that
mandate
loss
from the electorate
against
before
other
proceeding
unrelated
with any
income
change.
that he earns. So
The mixed
effectively,
ownership model
he
I
pays
spoke of
no
presents
tax
the possibility
on
of
his
real
first
benefit for New Zealanders.
$40,000.
But let me be clear.
And when he sells that
We will only
property,
proceed
he
with a
pays
mixed
no
ownership
tax
model
on the
if
profit
it
that he
meets the
earns,
following tests.
even though he's written off
Firstly,
through
the
a
government would
lifetime
have to
large
maintain
amounts
a
of his
majority
income tax
controlling stake
against the
by
profit
owning
that he's
more
made.
than 50% of the company. Next, New
The
Zealand
Treasury
investors would have to
in
be at
March
the front of
last
the queue
year
for shareholding,
told a national
and we would
government
have to be confident
that it
of
was
widespread
losing
and substantial New Zealand share
$260
ownership.
million
The companies
a
involved would
year
have to
in
present good
income
opportunities
through
for
leaving
investors.
that loophole
The
open.
capital freed up
And I tell you,
would have to
that
be used on
loophole
behalf of
is still
taxpayers
there,
to fund
but it
new
won't
public
be
assets,
under a Labor
thereby
government.
reduce the pressure on the government to borrow. And the government would have to be satisfied that industry-specific regulations adequately
I suppose it
protect
is a government
New Zealand
responsibility
consumers.
because people will try on a system if
In
they can
particular,
get
I
away
want to
with
stress
it.
that the
But
government
I'd have
is
this to
interested
say
in what
to Mark.
works,
He
not
may
in
be
following any
deliberately
particular
avoiding
ideology.
his share
Government
of tax,
governments of all
but he
stripes
still expects
all around the
everybody
world
else, everybody
regularly
here,
consider the
to
mixed
pay their
assets they
tax
own
so his
and
kids
whether
can
they
go
are
to
deployed
school,
in
so
the
his
right
family
places.
can go
And
to
that
hospital
is
if
what
they
we
need
are going
to,
do
and so we
as
can
well.
provide the services like
I
policing
want
and
to finish
justice
today by
across the
emphasising the
country.
importance of getting
That
the
is
New Zealand economy
unfair.
back on a
That's
solid
got to
and
stop.
durable growth
If you
path.
bludge by dodging
We
your
got off
taxes
that
in
path
that way,
in the mid-2000s,
you're simply
and
passing
doing
the
so
burden
has
on
proved
to the
very
rest of your
harmful.
community, and
Getting
we'll
back
stop
on the
that.
growth path again means playing to our true strengths, allowing our export industries to start expanding again, and not
Now, I
tying
want
up
to say
resources in
that
less
might be
efficient,
unfair, but it's also
domestically
bad for the
focused
economy.
government sectors.
Because what it does is
Increasing
it
national
encourages
savings is
investment
key
and
to supporting this
savings
shift.
to be
That is
channeled
why the
into
theme of this
speculative
year's
areas
budget is going
that
to
don't
be
grow the
savings
economy.
and investment.
And also,
We recognise that New
that's
Zealand's
what's
high level of
responsible
foreign debt
for
is
pushing
our
up house
biggest
prices,
vulnerability.
so people
We've
like
asked
Matt
the
and
Savings
Lisa
and Working
can't
Group to consider
afford
policy
to buy
options
a home
to
of their
increase
own.
national savings.
If you
But the
allow
government is already
investment
committed
and
to
actually
playing its
encourage
part.
investment
We
to
have
go
to
into
increase our
speculative
own
areas,
savings
that's
and
at the
reduce
expense
public sector
of the
debt.
productive
That
export
is
economy.
why the government is
And
going
actually,
to reduce
the
growth
productive
in
economy
spending and
is
get
the
back
area
to
that we
surpluses
need the
faster
investment to go
than
in
previously
to create
indicated
higher
and look to
economic
better
growth,
allocate
to
its
create
assets
better real
across
incomes
competing uses.
and to create jobs.
As I said at the outset of this speech, New Zealand has some great opportunities to get ahead
We
again
need to
and have a
reward
prosperous
people
future.
who build
But
the
to do so,
economy
we have
rather
to
than
give
those
our
people
internationally
who make
competitive
money
sectors
out of
the
creating
platform
absolutely
to
nothing.
succeed.
And that's what a
This
Labor government that
is
I
prepared
lead
to do
will
that.
be doing.
We will take the steps required to build stronger growth and to build that brighter future for New Zealanders.
The second
because,
source
quite
of
honestly,
funds to allow us
New
to
Zealanders
create a
deserve
tax-free
nothing
zone
less. Thank you
will
very
be to claim back some of the windfall tax cuts from the very top income earners. We haven't yet set what a top tax rate would be, and nor indeed have we determined the level of income that it would apply to. But I want to make this very clear to you today,
private sector
that
consumption
it will be set at a level that is comfortably into six figures on a personal income, and it will be indexed to ensure that no middle-income earner will be paying that top tax rate. We'll make sure that the top income earners don't use trusts to avoid paying the tax rate that they should be paying.
Through decades of undersaving
That's a big loophole, and we're looking with real interest at the report that the Law Commission is preparing in this area. How big we can make that tax-free zone will depend on how much we can get back by making the tax system fairer and by closing the loopholes. Now, that'll be very popular amongst a lot of New Zealanders, but there are vested interests out there that I can guarantee by tomorrow will be coming after me saying that this is a terrible thing